What if the biggest threat to your writing session isn't writer's block, isn't a busy schedule, and it isn't self-doubt? It's the device sitting next to your laptop. And that, my friends, is your phone. If you've ever sat down to write, felt your attention start to slide, and found your phone already in your hand before you even registered the decision, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about what's actually happening in your brain when your phone pulls you away from your writing. And I'm giving you a practical 3-part protocol that's going to help take your focus back. So stay with me. If you feel called to write a book, but writer's block, procrastination, and self-doubt keep pulling you from the page, you're not alone, and you're not meant to stay stuck. Hi, I'm Madison Michaels, author and life coach, and I've created this podcast as a creative space grounded in faith and mindset transformations to help you break through your blocks, gain creative clarity, and finally finish the book you're meant to write. So grab your cup of liquid gold and let's write the darn book together. Hello, my friends, and welcome to Write the Darn Book. I'm your host, Madison Michaels, and today we're diving into something that I know every single writer with a smartphone is dealing with right now, the phone problem. We're going to look at why your phone has such a powerful pull during your writing sessions, what's happening neurologically when that happens, and exactly what you can do about it in a way that's practical and actually works. So let's get into it. Now, here's a question I want you to sit with for a moment. When was the last time you sat down to write and you made it through a full session without picking up your phone? Not just putting it face down on the desk, but genuinely not touching it, not glancing at it, not even reaching for it out of habit. If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not weak-willed. What's happening when you reach for your phone mid-writing session isn't a character flaw. It's a neurological response, and understanding that is the first step towards changing it. The reason this matters so deeply for writers is that writing is one of the most cognitively demanding things a human being can do. You're holding a whole world in your mind. Characters, timelines, emotional arcs, dialogue rhythms, and you're translating that inner world into language on the page. And that requires deep, sustained attention, not fragmented attention, and not the kind of attention that you can give something when half your awareness is on a screen. The kind of focus that writing demands is exactly the kind that your phone is neurologically designed to interrupt. So today, I want to give you the understanding of what's actually happening, a story about how I watched this play out in real time, and then a 3-part protocol that you can put into practice before your very next writing session. Because this isn't about willpower. It's about working with the way your brain actually functions. I want to tell you about a writing session I had that I think many of you will recognize. It was a Sunday afternoon. I'd cleared my schedule, the house was quiet, and I sat down at my desk, genuinely excited to write. I had a scene in my head that I'd been thinking about all day, and I knew what I needed to do. I could see it. I opened up my manuscript, I positioned my fingers over the keyboard, and then I picked up my phone. Not for any particular reason either. There was no message that came through, nothing I was expecting, no notification that was pinging and telling me I had to check my phone, but my hand still reached for it. You see, checking my phone had become a habit, one I wasn't even aware of at that stage. So I checked my email, which had nothing urgent in it. Then I flicked across to Instagram and maybe spent a few minutes scrolling there, just checking I wasn't missing anything. I put my phone down. Then I looked up at my manuscript on the screen and I wrote a couple of sentences, and then I picked up the phone again. I couldn't believe it. So you know what? I put it in another room, and then I came back to my desk and I sat back down, and I realized that it had been nearly 30 minutes since I actually first sat down to write. And the scene that I'd felt so vivid and so alive in my mind had gone really flat. The energy was gone. The connection to that scene and story had slipped. And I spent the rest of that writing session trying to find my way back into it rather than actually writing. That afternoon, I made a decision, not out of frustration, well, maybe a little bit, but more so out of curiosity. I wanted to understand what was happening. Not just that I'd gotten distracted, but why was the pull I had to pick up my phone and look at it so complete and so automatic and very much outside my conscious decision making. And what I discovered changed how I approach every single writing session now. Because once I understood what my brain was actually doing when I reached for my phone, I stopped fighting it with willpower alone, and I started building systems that made that pull of my phone much less frequent and far less powerful in the first place. Let's start with the neuroscience, because it honestly is so fascinating, and it's also deeply reassuring when you understand it. You see, your brain has what's called a dopamine reward system, and it's one of the most powerful motivational systems in your body. Dopamine is released not just when you experience something pleasurable, but when you anticipate it, when you think something good might be about to happen. And what social media platforms and messaging apps and emails, what they've all been deliberately designed to do is create what's called a variable reward, the same mechanism that makes slot machines so compelling. Every time you pick up your phone, there's a chance something interesting or pleasurable is there. A message, perhaps from someone you like, a notification that feels good, a piece of content that makes you laugh. And because the reward is variable, sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't, your brain learns to check obsessively, because that unpredictability is the most powerful driver of repeated behavior that we know of. Your brain isn't malfunctioning when it reaches for the phone. It's responding to conditioning. Social media platforms are built around novelty and intermittent reward, the two things that the brain learns fastest from. You've literally been trained by very sophisticated systems. And recognizing that isn't an excuse, but it is the truth. And the truth is useful. The second thing to understand is what happens to your writing brain when you pick up your phone and then put it back down. Cognitive neuroscientists call this attention residue. It's when you shift your focus from one thing to another, even briefly, a portion of your attention stays behind on the first task while you're doing the second. And when you come back to the first task, it takes time for your full cognitive resources to reconvene. Research suggests that this can take anywhere from 10 to 23 minutes to fully recover, which means every time you pick up your phone during a writing session, you're not just losing the minutes you spent on the phone, you're losing the recovery time on both sides of it. This is why the writing session I described felt like it went sideways so fast. It wasn't just the 30 minutes of distraction, it was what that distraction cost my creative focus, the depth of the immersion I'd been building, and the time it would have taken to rebuild. So let's talk about what actually works. And I'm going to talk about a 3-part phone boundary protocol for your writing sessions. Now, I want to be clear here. This isn't about demonizing your phone or pretending it isn't useful. It's about building a structure around your writing sessions that makes it easier for your brain to go deeper rather than harder. And there are 3 parts to this protocol, and they do work best when you use all 3 together. Now, the first part is the physical boundary. The single most effective thing you can do is to put your phone in a different room. Yes, you heard me, a different room, not in a drawer, but in another room. Research from the University of Texas at Austin found that even the visible presence of a smartphone, even switched off, and it could be even in the corner of your eye, it reduces the available cognitive capacity because a part of your brain is continuously monitoring whether to engage with your phone. Out of sight, out of neural load. So if you write in a space where another room isn't an option, put it in a bag that's zipped up and place it away from your body so that you can't even see it. That's going to be the next best option. The goal is to remove the phone from your immediate environment so that reaching for it requires an active decision rather than a reflexive automatic one. For writers with children or anyone who needs to be reachable, a simple solution is to use a basic phone or a watch to receive calls while you're keeping the smartphone in another room during your writing session. Now, if you need your phone for music or ambient sound, put it in airplane mode and play your audio before you sit down so you're not carrying the internet into your writing session. Now, part 2 is what I call the intention anchor. Before you open your manuscript, I want you to write 1 sentence on a sticky note or on a little bit of paper. It's not a goal and not a word count target, but a scene intention. Something like, today I'm writing the moment she realizes he's been lying. Or it could be, today I'm writing the chapter where the decision gets made. This 1 sentence acts as an anchor for your creative attention. And when your brain starts to drift, and it will because brains do wander, the intention anchor gives it somewhere specific to return to, particularly if you can see it from the corner of your eye or in front of you. Now, it's much easier to return to something concrete than to something vague. Different writers will find that this lands differently based on how you process. If you're a visual writer, then you might want to close your eyes for 30 seconds and see the scene before you write the first word. If you're more auditory, then you might say the scene intention out loud. And if you're kinesthetic, you might find that a short walk just before you sit down helps your body shift into a creative state. Auditory digital writers generally find that note works, something that's in their eye line as well. Now, the point here isn't the specific ritual, it's that you're giving your brain a clear signal that writing time is beginning, and it's separate from your habitual cycle of checking and responding to your phone that characterizes a great part of your day. Now, the third part is what I call the commitment window. So I want you to decide in advance how long your writing session is going to be. Not, I'll write until I feel like stopping, because that never works in your favor, especially when the phone is calling. And I mean that figuratively, perhaps literally too, but you know what I mean. Now, I want you to commit to a specific window. 20 minutes is enough, okay? 20 completely uninterrupted minutes of writing produces more usable work than 2 hours of fragmented attention. So set a timer before you begin, not on your phone though, on a separate device, or a kitchen timer is perfect. And then commit to staying in the writing until that timer goes off. When you feel that urge to check your phone, which it will, notice it without acting on it. You're not suppressing the urge, you're practicing choosing your writing and your story over it. And every time you make that choice, you're building a new neural pathway. Over time, this changes your relationship to your writing sessions. Your brain starts to learn that writing time is protected time, and the pull towards your phone during that window will gradually lessen. This isn't a quick fix though. It's a practice, but it does work, and it works because it's aligned with how your brain actually learns. You're not white knuckling through willpower. You're creating conditions that makes it easier for your brain to do what you actually want it to do. Now, I do want to have a quick chat about the different writing personalities in terms of this protocol. If you're a dove, the relational draw of your phone is particularly strong. Messages from people that you care about feel genuinely important, and leaving them unread can create anxiety. The permission you need is this: the people who matter to you are not harmed by your phone being in another room for 20 minutes. You can give them your full attention before and after your writing window. But your writing matters too, and protecting it is an act of integrity, not selfishness. Now, if you're an owl, you might find yourself using your phone to research mid-session, which feels productive, but functions as a distraction, just with extra justification. So keep a notepad beside you and jot down anything you need to look up. And you can save that research for a dedicated research block that is separate from your writing time. If you're a peacock, the pull towards inspiration, checking Pinterest, scrolling for images, looking for creative fuel, can masquerade as writing preparation. Give yourself a dedicated inspiration window before you sit down to write, and then close it. Okay? When you're writing, you are writing. And if you're an eagle, you might resist this protocol simply because someone told you to do it. I challenge you, try it anyway and track the results yourself. Trust me, the data will speak for itself. All right, my friends, here is your action for this week. Before your next writing session, for one writing session, what I want you to do, which might sound contrary, is I want you to have your phone with you, and I want you to make a note of every single time you either feel the urge to pick it up and look at it, or you actually do pick it up and look at it, and just make a note of it. You know, a little tally beside you on a notepad. And I want you to see how many times you do actually feel that urge to look at your phone and you do look at it. Keep track of that. Then what I would like you to do is for your next writing session after that, I want you to make sure that you put your phone in another room. Then I want you to write one sentence of a scene intention on a sticky note and place it where you can see it when you're writing. Then set a timer for 20 minutes, not on your phone, and write until the timer goes off. That's all, okay? One session to check how often you check your phone, and one session to actually have a 20-minute block of writing without your phone anywhere near you. Then I want you to see what happens to the quality of your focus and the depth of your writing when you protect that writing window completely. And I genuinely love to hear how it goes. And if you've been listening today and recognizing something deeper than a phone habit, if the procrastination, the distraction, the difficulty setting into your writing feels like it's connected to something bigger, that's worth exploring. Sometimes the patterns that keep us away from our writing have roots that a protocol alone won't reach. And that is exactly where coaching comes in. I work one-to-one with writers at every stage, whether you're staring at a blank page or halfway through a manuscript that's gone cold. Start with a free 15-minute clarity call with me. No commitment, just an honest conversation. Head to madisonmichaels.com/call and you can find the link in the show notes too. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Your writing matters, not just to you, but to the readers who are waiting for the story that only you can tell. Remember, my friends, you are the vessel for your story. So let the words flow through you and onto the page. All right, my friends, I will see you in the next episode. Until then, take care and let's write the darn book together. My friend, I hope today's episode gave you exactly what you needed for your writing journey. And if it did, would you take 30 seconds to share it with another writer who's struggling to start or finish their book? And if you're loving the show, I'd be so grateful if you left a quick review. It means the world to me and truly makes my day to know that this podcast is helping you. And as you head back into your week, I hope you feel more supported and connected to your creativity. And remember, you're a vessel for the story. So let the words flow through you and onto the page. All right, I'm off to refill my cup of liquid gold and go and do a little writing of my own. Take care, and I'll meet you back here in the next episode of Write the Darn Book.